Chapter 42 Signals. Jeff and Lindsay drove together to the rendezvous point, while the remainder of the crew followed at a safe distance behind in the cargo bob, maintaining visual on the car as long as possible, but steadily increasing their altitude so they could circle around undetected. They sped up the Los Santos freeway in Jeff's dark, heavily tinted Sultan RS, thankful for the light morning traffic as the golden sunrise broke over the mountain ranges. The sun might cause some issues. Jeremy's voice came over the comms in their ears. You guys are going to have the glare to contend with. If they're clever about it, they'll position snipers up high with their backs to the sun. They'll be damn near impossible to spot. At least, that's where I'd be. Thanks for the heads up, Lil J. Jeff reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a pair of dark-tinted aviator sunglasses. Lindsay opened the glove box and retrieved her own, slipping them on and brushing her long blonde hair back off her face. She checked her phone again, going through the long conversation she'd been having with Steffi. She muted the mic on her comms, and Jeff did likewise. They could hear the chatter of the others as they discussed the layout of the storage shed and went over their movements and possible strategies. We're going to have company soon. The others are on standby if need be. Good, Jeff replied, nodding absently. Lindsay could tell he was doing that thing he always did, processing plans almost subconsciously. Is this a bad decision? Lindsay asked nervously. Do you think we can trust them to come through? Jeff's expression softened, and he smiled hopefully. If there's one thing I've learned in my time with this crew, it's that if you make enough bad decisions, every once in a while, things work out for you. Sometimes you just gotta take that leap of faith. Lindsay nodded, thinking of Michael, reassuring herself that whatever happened, this was the right thing to do. Also, Jeff, I don't mean to disrupt the mood or anything, but what the fuck are we listening to? The music on the stereo had taken a sudden turn from classic rock to something far more bluegrass that Lindsay hardly expected to hear in Jeff's car. Jeff raised an eyebrow and looked at her with a grin. You don't like lesbian folk music? In the cargo bob, Matt and Jeremy were looking over the satellite images of the storage shed and surrounding areas, trying to work out what might be the best way in and where potential vantage points were. Until they got there, though, it would be hard to tell. They had no way of knowing how many randoms could be waiting for them, but they hoped Lindsay and Jeff were right. Most of them would be focused on the rendezvous point. Ryan and Trevor were more focused on Michael and Gavin and the randoms holding them. Did you notice the collection bags? Trevor asked. Ryan looked at him quizzically and shook his head. I only caught a quick glimpse. It looked like they had an IV or something in Michael and Gavin, like they were about to collect blood. I can't figure out why they'd want to. Ryan cringed, a few different scenarios immediately coming to mind, any of which wouldn't be out of the realm of reality, given the current state of reality. The thing with torture is, you're really only limited by your imagination. Trevor nodded. He knew too well. Regardless of what they said, we should prepare for the worst. Be prepared to get them out of there and straight to the hospital. Andy stuck his head around in the cargo hold. I've got the med kits ready. Jack and I'll be on standby. I might not be the best medic, but I can at least follow instructions. Ryan and Trevor nodded, both now feeling an anxious flutter in their chests, considering their own actions in similar situations before. Ryan's mind kept trying to focus on events at the warehouse, the sizzle and smell of his own roasting flesh, but he refused to let them settle, continuously reminding himself of things happening here, now. He fiddled, loading and unloading weapons, counting bullets, just noticing things happening around him, trying to be consciously present in the moment. Jeremy's hand landed hard on his shoulder, and Ryan's own went instinctively to rest on the hilt of his knife. Not the terrifyingly animalistic way it had before, but now as a physical reminder. Vincit qui sent vincit. He conquers who conquers himself. We got this, Ryan. Battle buddies. He nodded. Battle buddies. We'll get him back. Mika's voice on the comms crackled in their ears. All right, boys. We're going up and around. Hang tight. It was closely followed by Jack's. We're going to fly ahead, circle around, scope out activity at Chiansky Passage for Jeff and Lindsay, and then head back and wait for their instruction. Ryan was already eyeing the parachutes and wondering if more immediate action might be required. Ryan, whatever you're thinking about, don't. Jack preemptively cautioned. What? I wasn't doing anything, he protested somewhat petulantly. His gaze and gave him a knowing look. That kid would follow him anywhere. He would probably do the same. Jack continued, ignoring Ryan. Everyone, keep your eyes open. Call out anything suspicious. If they're expecting us to make a stand, they're going to leave a trace. Jeff and Lindsay had been talking about the intricacies of exactly what constituted lesbian folk music, and more importantly, how Jeff had come to listen to it. The answer was obviously Griffin had recommended it to him after meeting the musicians on one of her own inexplicably outlandish adventures. The off-topic conversation was good for their nerves, but again, they were interrupted by Jack on the comms. Jeff, Lindsay, you guys might be in for a fight. Got what looks like maybe 5 vans parked around the grain store near Union Road. Might be planning on following you down to block you in. Could easily be more than 40 guys in there, probably more further down the road. Can't get visuals on the lab side without getting too close, but it looked like there was activity down there. Yeah, that's about what I was expecting, Jeff replied. Looks like there are some choppers further up north, near the railway shed. Might not be related. They look a little bit like the FIB ones. Lindsay and Jeff exchanged a nervous glance. Thanks, Jack. Not much we can do about that now. We go ahead as planned. Don't worry about us. Just focus on getting Michael and Gavers out of it. Jeff? Jack sounded pained to say it, and everyone could hear over the comms. Be careful, okay? The comms went quiet again, and Jeff continued driving, coming up to Union Road and the grain store. Stick to the plan. Find out what we can, and when push comes to shove, we push back. As Jeff turned off Union Road, 5 sets of headlights turned on behind them, and one by one fell into line behind them. Well, we got the welcome party on our tail, Lindsay reported through the comms. Suddenly, the leading van accelerated until it was almost on top of them, then braked hard and matched their speed, driving as close as possible behind them. Jeff nearly had a heart attack. What the shit was that? The comms had turned static. Jack? Lindsay tried. Jack? Shit. I think they've got some kind of jammer. Jeff looked tense, but in control. It's okay. We've still got this. Lindsay nodded. She still hadn't entirely dismissed the idea that whatever happened, they might just be pulled from the car and executed on sight. Her heart was racing. You okay, Linz? Honestly, I'm shitting myself. Just a little bit. Jeff laughed. Me too. You didn't have to come with me, you know. Jeff shook his head. I've sat out enough, and there's no way I'm giving them exactly what they're asking for. We throw spanners wherever we can. Whatever they're expecting, we make sure it's not what they get. He wasn't about to tell her he had any intention of switching places with her if given the opportunity. Lindsay nodded. Besides, I've given Steffi very clear instructions on what to do if we go dark. Steffi? You didn't think she was only working for you, did you? Jeff asked with a smirk. Besides, I sure as hell didn't realize she wasn't getting 2 paychecks. Wait, she's been working for both of us? Jeff nodded. But she's also been stocking the liquor cabinets, so I can't stay too mad at her. And right now is when it's going to pay off. She's got the tracking chip details for you and Michael, and she's got Funhouse on standby. Something happens to us while the others are busy, we'll have backup. That was reassuring. And if they kill us? Jeff wasn't sure how to answer that. He slowed down, driving more carefully as they passed a small shack on the side of the road. There was movement around the outside, men in dark suits, but they weren't easy to make out in the shadow of the mountains. There was one blind corner in the pass. Neither was surprised as they rounded it, and, shielding their eyes from the glare of the rising sun, they saw another 5 vans parked haphazardly across the road just in front of the entrance to Humane Labs. To shut down those labs, they had to either have some serious firepower or impressive connections. This was a big deal. Jeff pulled up a little way from the blockade and killed the engine. With the entourage now following them, the road exit was just about useless anyway. They made no move to exit as armed people dressed entirely in black with balaclavas covering their faces spewed out of the vans all around them. Within seconds, their car was surrounded. There was something almost military in the way they moved that worried them both. But the most disturbing thing was the last man to exit the van immediately in front of them. Jeff's blood ran cold. It was like he'd seen a ghost. He wasn't entirely sure he wasn't looking at one, to be honest. The man stood tall, in a gray, three-piece suit and worn work boots, with a shockingly innocent face, even with a few days of stubble, wide brown eyes, and neatly trimmed light brown hair. Shadles. "Shit!" Jack exclaimed, slamming down the radio receiver and fishing his cell phone out of his pocket and immediately calling Jeff's number. Nothing. "What happened? They cut out?" Mika asked. He tried Lindsay's. More nothing. "Must be jamming the signal," Jack mused. "We'll give it a minute, see if it clears, head to the storage shed, but keep this altitude. Don't want to give anything away just yet." Ryan's head whipped around to Jeremy, who was already making for a parachute. Ryan was close behind him, adjusting his heavy armor beneath his jacket before he donned his own. Matt and Trevor watched them nervously. "You're gonna jump?" Trevor asked quietly. "No!" Jeremy acted offended. "Definitely not," Ryan agreed. Matt scoffed. Shouldn't you at least wait until we get there?" Jeremy shot a look at Ryan as if to say, "Ready?" Ryan returned the look with a smirk. "Tell you what, we'll race you." Jeremy patted Matt on the shoulder as he left from the side door of the Cargobob without further fanfare. "See you there," Ryan added as he jumped after Jeremy. They could practically hear Jack smoldering in the Cargobob. "Wait! Who just jumped out? You motherfuckers!" Jeremy and Ryan streaked through the air, pulling their chutes almost in unison at close the last possible second to avoid being spotted, and spiraled toward the open field behind the storage warehouse. They'd easily beaten the Cargobob. "Ryan, you asshole, you were meant to wait for the signal!" Jack was still yelling over the comms. Now that they could hear something other than wind rushing past them, Ryan rolled his eyes and radioed back. "If their signal's being jammed, how are we meant to know? What that means is that they never intended to send that second message at all, which means, Jack, that Michael and Gavin could be in trouble right now. So no, I'm not waiting." "What if they tipped them off that you've gone in and they killed Jeff and Lindsay?" "Jammers don't discriminate. They can't tip them off if they can't get a signal to them." "He's right, Jack." Jeremy backed Ryan up without hesitation. "There are other ways to get a message across, Ryan." Jack sounded borderline panicking. "Jesus, just stop and think about it for a second. Literally, all it would take is to have some guy standing outside the range of the jammer with a cell phone, and he can walk over and tell them." Ryan hadn't considered that, nor had Jeremy, it seemed, considering the look they exchanged. Still, they were about to touch down, and as far as they could tell, they'd have a pretty clear run at the place. Too late now. Ryan touched down with practiced ease, releasing his chute and letting it fall away, while Jeremy touched down not quite as elegantly a few feet away. "Hang back, just until we're sure. Do some surveillance. At the very least, wait until we can touch down for evac. Please. I know you're angry, but you gotta think of the team." Jeremy was fully expecting Ryan to make a snarky comment and run in anyway, and frankly, so was Jack, but it didn't come. Ryan froze. Jack was right. They needed to work together. His reckless actions last time had fucked them over, and as much as Jeremy believed in him, he'd already hurt Jeremy once. He wasn't ready to lead him into a possible ambush, or into a situation where he could be responsible for anything that happened to Jeff or Lindsay. Jeremy wouldn't be able to deal with that. He wouldn't run in. Not when they had backup so close. "All right, Jack. We'll hold back, but hurry your ass up and get down here." Jeremy frowned at him. "So, surveillance?" Ryan nodded. Jeremy whipped his sniper rifle off his back and moved up to a better position and carefully peered through the scope. "See anything?" Ryan asked after a few minutes. "Nothing yet. Wait, yeah. Looks like there's someone coming out of the building. Make that two someones. And looks like there might be snipers on the adjacent roof. They're not set up yet, just hanging out. We should take them out first." Probably wise to wait, then. Matt was a far better shot from this distance, and they'd need to take them down simultaneously. "We should do it now. They'll probably spot the Cargobob," Jeremy continued. Yeah," Ryan agreed reluctantly. "Okay, let's take them out." He slung his own rifle over his shoulder, and they carefully advanced to a better position. "I'll get the one on the left, you take the one on the right, yeah?" Jeremy wisely gave himself the more difficult shot. "Okay, ready? On 3. 1, 2, 3. 2 shots rang out, quickly followed by a third. Damn, Ryan muttered under his breath as he missed. Thankfully, Jeremy was fast, and both the snipers went down before an alarm could be raised. Signing up for the suicide squad, eh, Deadshot? Jeremy joked, but Ryan just grumbled. He couldn't help but feel a little useless. It was a jolt to his nerves that made him sick to his stomach, but then again, that could also be the lack of sleep and the growing sense of worry for Michael and Gavin. Whatever the source, it was not good for his mental state. He was already beginning to doubt himself. Ryan? Jeremy asked carefully. You okay, buddy? Yeah. He shook his head and tried to tell himself to snap out of it. Jeremy looked worried for him. It was the same look of concern he'd had after everything that happened at the warehouse. I'm fine. Ryan was still functional enough to focus on what needed to happen next. Keep an eye on the patrols. They might have heard something. They start acting suspicious. We take them out and move in. Jeremy nodded. On it. Overhead in the distance, they could just hear the whir of the blades of the cargo bob as it descended to drop off the others and await evac. It wasn't long before Trevor and Matt were panting beside them, Matt with a duffel bag of assorted weapons and explosives on one shoulder and a distinctive pink sniper rifle slung over the other. Trevor had his phone out. He'd been tracking Michael's chip. The signal was accurate to within a few meters. It looks like they're being kept in one of the smaller storage rooms towards the center of the facility. The kind usually used for storing archived files and the like, Trevor pointed out, showing Ryan the overlay of the signal location. Not so easy to get in and out undetected. Might be easier to go in loud, Ryan noted. Matt smirked, dropping the bag to the ground at Ryan's feet and peering through the scope of his rifle to survey the scene. You going in loud, Ryan? Ryan shrugged. Yeah, I'm kind of a brute. I'd never guessed, Trevor remarked, rolling his eyes. He checked in over the comms. We're here, Jack, standing by for your signal. Give me a minute. We're still not getting anything from Jeff or Lindsay. Steffi says backup's on the way. She also says if you guys get in trouble, she has reinforcements on standby, so let me know if shit gets real. Backup? What kind of reinforcements? Where were these people coming from? What had been happening while he was gone? It really just asked more questions than it answered, and Ryan again felt suddenly like he might be in over his head. Keep it together, Haywood. Still gotta get Michael and Gavin back. Focus on that. We might not have a minute, Jeremy interjected. Matt hummed agreement, peering down his scope and taking aim. The patrol looks spooked. I think they... Yep. They tried the radio. They know something's up. Take 'em down, Matt. Everything happened so fast. Matt and Jeremy took them out in an instant. It shouldn't have surprised Ryan as much as it did. They'd been working together on the B team for years, and they'd been teamed up recently, so they were back in practice. Still, it was impressive to watch and definitely a confidence boost. Ryan checked the time. It'd been just over 90 minutes since the phone call. With any luck, they'd still have the jump on the randoms. So, I guess that means we're going in loud then,